many question themselves what makes one. And I would like to start with that. Everything starts from the childhood in general, just everything. You can recall each and every single personality trait even from that. Because if you do not have certain conditions, you won't become an insult. And that's a fact. For example, you have to live within certain commodities. You have to be middle class, if you can call it that. You have to have an authoritarian household and a lot of control over your life, and that provokes a lot of the stuff that one goes through later of the thought process, and it's complicated. And that's how I started. I had a very rough childhood in general. It was a very rough childhood in general, in that sense at least. So, like I said before, it's too much control over your life. And that's what kills you in the end. Because when I was around 5, 6 years old, I was protected to levels that are not healthy for a person. I mean, for example, it's very hot outside, and they just put me on fucking jackets or something very thick. And during my school years, I was on the same school that was my father. He was a teacher and then a director. So every fuck up that I made in the school, or every little, every little joke, or even if I just got one wrong mark, my father immediately, instantly knew, basically. So yeah, everything revolves around that authoritarian household. A lot of control during my life, and even in school, that it's supposed to be where you have a little bit more freedom, where you are another person. I wasn't even allowed that. And then comes, of course, I come from a very Christian household, and that's the most complex of all, because Christian evangelical, the household was very religious in that
Hmm.
sense. I always went to church the Sundays, and that meant that certain thoughts that you can have as an insult actually originates also from thoughts that are implanted to you during your church years, overall in the early years, because everything they say to you, you just absorb it like a sponge. And normally it's far right or very extremist information and very extremist thoughts. So yeah, that's how everything starts,
Yeah.
from just childhood.
Can you tell me about some of the ideas from the Christian right that coincide with inceldom?
Yeah, in fact, you cannot basically, well, my church was very restrictive in that. Basically, you cannot kiss a girl, for example, or take her hand, because it's the devil's work or something. And that same concept carries over onto the incel years. Like, you want to, but you can't. But instead of having a divine justification, you just have the well, you hate them, and that's rough. And the other thing is that inside the Christian circles, as you know, there's a lot of, well, um, violence towards the woman, or dominance over the woman in general. It's like the norm. So they teach you from a very early age to be actually kind of dominant. They also teach you the basic composition of the family, supposedly, that you must have a wife, you must have children, you must do this, you must do that, and that carries over. They say you must do this.
And then when you can't do it, then you feel horrible.
Exactly. Yeah, that carries over. Of course, every conservative thought that you can think of carries over too, because as you know, incels are actually right wing too. It's a very right wing circle, and it's very easy to fall into it. So yeah, now letting this a little bit behind, I want to talk about, of course, the later years. Like, there was something in my life that actually triggered this everything. It was around 16 years old, my first relationship, between quotes. So I know it's very weird to hear from an ex-incel like everything started from a relationship, but that is actually because I started a relationship with this girl that I met on school, and a week later she cut me off. She literally ended the relationship through chat, and that hits very hard overall. If I didn't have an opportunity to fuck it up, I didn't know what the hell I did wrong, and in retrospective, I didn't commit any mistakes. Like, it's weird, and it's something that's odd, because I've talked about this and the things I did during the relationship, or well, during the period. And thing is, she simply didn't want to be with me, and she didn't have the guts to openly tell me about it, and that damaged me a lot. Like, I ended up in full depression mode over a year. And something that I forgot to talk about, that makes an insult too: bullying. I suffered bullying for a lot of the school, like the first 8 years, constantly. The worst being one time they just threw me in the courtyard and started kicking me in the guts. It was a very hard period in general, like authoritarian household and bullying and going to church and getting all this stuff into you, and it was just overwhelming at one point. And at one point, I was going to break. And when I broke with that relationship, there's something important when getting into incel forums. And now let's make a little bit of a difference here. The Chilean incel is very different from the American incel in general, because the American incels first has access to guns.
Yeah.
Second, it's a different culture in between, and also it's the internet forums are actually much more widespread in the US than in Chile, for example. It's a much wider use. I mean that. So even when I was an incel at this part of the world, I interacted with people of the US mostly because they were the only ones that kind of get me, if you can say that. And they actually were the ones that lured me in, because you just don't become an incel, you also get lured in by, because you have the church and your past experiences with bullying and isolation and depression, stress, and loneliness, because in the end an incel is a very lonely person. You start seeking people to talk to, and when you find the incel community, it's they drag you out immediately. And like getting into an incel form, it's an vicious cycle of feeling like an ass. Like, you say any kind of hope, like, no, I know I can get into a relationship with this girl, or I know I can try it or be better. They tell you to no, you will never do it, and you will never be allowed to actually have a relationship. You'll be sad your entire life, and that reinforcement of horrible experiences in general just breaks you. And that is when the things that they believe start getting into you. And that is the hard part, because when it starts getting into you, you don't know it, but you are so wrong on so many levels. And yeah, it was a lot of time that I was like that. Like, um well, by stupid chance and luck, I just managed to not be one of these creeps that stalks women, or one of these guys who remain an insult in like 30 years old. I mean, my brother was a very big influence on this, but that's for later. But even on my years as an insult, you do things because you feel, in the end, you feel very alone. And the sense of community that the incel community, if you can call it that, brings you, the incel forums, it's just something that you didn't get before. You as an incel were an outcast, and I mean everywhere. You're just completely out, because in school you don't have friends, and moreover your parents don't let you get friends on your neighbor. Then you just get into the fact that you are alone, and you need to talk. I mean, we humans, as much as an introvert you might be, you need to talk to other humans, or you just break at one point. And that's something that happened to me.
Scary how powerful people telling you you're not alone can be when those people do not have good intentions.
Exactly. So when they tell you you're not alone, but you will be shit the rest of your life, that just completely obliterates one's feelings. So, this thing that the church, or well, the priest in general, the Bible even says, you're not worthy of love, but God loves you anyway.
Ugh, that's such a gross. Ugh.
Exactly. and they just tell you that thing from when you are 5, 4 years old, and the self-esteem in later years just disappears completely. I mean, I didn't have any self-esteem like during my teenage years, so that brought me into depression too. Well, the years started pass. I was an incel, and I did mistakes as an incel too, like every human does, and I incurred into online harassment, which, yeah, I mean, it's wrong in every level. But at that time, I just wanted the company, I just wanted someone to talk to me or somewhere to belong to. And they actually threatened me to kick me completely out of the community if I didn't do harassment, even if I didn't want to.
Wow.
So yeah, in those years I made questionable choices, and well, like I said, for stupid luck, I didn't end up stalking or doing anything else in anything stupid directly.
I don't know if it's all luck. It takes some compassion to survive that and not become the worst type of person.
Yeah, that too. But and a strength of mind because when getting out of there it's hard, like, but that's for later. Like, I used to have a lot of right wing beliefs, and right now it's very funny because I ended up like a left wing radical, basically. Like, coming back to that, during those years you basically cannot pose, you're screwed. Struggling with that was the years, but then, like at 17 or 18 years old, my brother came in basically and watched me like in this right wing ideology and stuff, and he started working with me. But he didn't know I was an insult yet, and started working with me to pull out those thoughts out of my mind. And it's actually all theory. In fact, that's what he did. He started slowly making myself question those thoughts, and slowly start regaining control. And of course, in school, I didn't have many friends. But I made friends, and that started pulling me out too. And that actually was very helpful to me because in school years, I still had the cheat self-esteem, but I actually didn't felt isolated anymore. And coupled with the work my brother was doing, I started getting away from the forums, from the incel circles in general, like just taking steps back. And well, that's the thing. There are two ways to get out of this vicious circle of feeling horrible. One of them is, of course, the way I did, like an external person starts working with you, and you meet people that makes the entire purpose of the film to not feel isolated anymore completely pointless. And you start to realize, oh, those are not good people, and you start taking steps back and steps back. And some posts and stories from there actually pulled me back to some things that were far too far. Like, I mean, stalking and harassment in public and humiliation, and basically, no, some things that I can't do and I wouldn't agree even in my lowest moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that started pulling me back too.
I guess I have a question about the forums, a specific topic that you will definitely know about. Elliot Rogers.
Oh, yeah. Oof. I'm going to start speaking in general terms, but holy hell, in those forums, like, school shooters are basically heroes. And oof. And of course, that, but it's okay if I don't want to talk about it because it makes real uncomfortable.
That's totally okay. That's past my limit to think about sometimes, and you actually
Yeah,
had to look at it every single day, so it makes sense that you'd not want to bring it up ever again.
yeah. But in summary, every crime or every, well, I'll just put it, every crime that any incel commits, it's held as a hero. And every single news coverage that is around them. I hate that about the mainstream media in general. How they cover this story, like they go around and around and around and just say, "Dude, this dude was a 5 years old. He fucking played Doom," or played some shit and had this and that psychiatric problem. Basically, they do them a biography, giving them the exposure they need, and they tell the ideology he was an insult in the forums. That's what they want. The mainstream media in the end, like CNN and BBC and all this media, all these news conglomerates, just fucking give them what they wanted by committing horrible crimes, and just breaks me. That that's something that still happens today. Like all the coverage on,
Yeah.
and well, that people should die nameless, and that's it. They just should have show the victims, not the perpetrators. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. That's something I saw in the forums a lot of time. The thing is, I did actually haunted me, like until I went to therapy. That's it. So what happened is that in the end I got out. Getting out is not easy. Like I said before, once you're out, things start to go better. Like I went into university and here I made a lot of friends, but they also turned out to be shitty in the end. But that's a story I'll tell a little bit more later. So you just know a bit of what the hell happened. But I started making a lot of friends. I became a very sociable person. My self-esteem problems started to go away by themselves. Of course, my self-esteem, it's easy to improve over shit, you know? It's very easy to improve over the lowest point of self-esteem, but an improvement is an improvement. Like I still have low self-esteem. Like I watch myself in the mirror. You know, as an insult, you have a lot of self-hatred. That's a big one. One of the reasons that why you, when you go into the bathroom, you see yourself and you fall into the insult rabbit hole. That is, you just watch yourself in the mirror and you say, "I hate you." And it was a surprise to me when one day in the morning, like in 2019, when I was already at university, I look myself at the mirror and say, "Well, oh, I'm indifferent to you." I didn't say I hate you. I didn't say I despise you or anything, or I want to kill you even. I just watched myself and said, "Hey, there you are, in spite of everything." And you know, those years were hard to me because I was dealing with the guilt of what I did, even if it was, well, if you compare it, of course, to the school shootings or the stalking or even, it's not something bad, like bad, like holy fuck, you deserve prison and never to get out of see the sunlight again. But you know, the mistakes you make still haunt you, and it took me 2 years of therapy getting rid of them because, of course, during 2019, I decided to go to therapy in 2020. And from then on, after started therapy, that just was very healthy in general. Like self-esteem started going up steadily, at least. Like not our skyrocket, but it was doing well. That also started a process of deconstructing a lot of the thoughts that I had during my younger years. It's something I'm proud of, like getting over everything. Like there are some times that you just walk around the street, you see, I don't know, an X woman or a Y woman, and you say a little part of your mind, in spite of everything, still says, "I hate you" or something horrible, like "you fucking bitch." I don't know. It's something that happens, but
There's a word for it. It's intrusive thoughts. It's something that happens to a lot of people that had to deprogram bad stuff in their past. It's very common.
yeah, that's something that to a lot of ex-insults have to deal with after the fact. And well, the programming the thoughts was hard, but you know, the feeling of you deserve a woman or deserve this just disappeared. And you know, that's one of the bigger pitfalls of being an insult, you know, because when you try to date someone, the thing is, you just hurt the other person with the deserving, and you feel like you have the authority and he fucking must do it, you know, she must be with you and she cannot do anything else, and that's horrible. It's perfect fuel for a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
So the programming everything, of course I wasn't going to get into a relationship during those 2 years, and well, in general. And also, I discovered that I'm a demisexual. So yeah,
That's a hell of a thing to have going through your mind the
Yeah.
moment that you're escaping that. Wow. Do you want to briefly describe that term for people that may not understand it?
Okay, so basically, demisexual cannot have sexual relationships with any person like on the fly. Like you must have an emotional attachment or connection to that person to be able to feel comfortable.
It's like my girlfriend's also demisexual. The way I've heard it described is like you can still feel that attraction, but you have to unlock it first. It's
Yes,
not
yes,
just there.
yes, exactly. And that takes time. So
Yes.
Tinder just didn't work out for me in the post time, like after therapy. And something happened in my group of friends that actually was very shitty. So to tell you the story in short, we were at a vacation trip and I managed to get the house of my grandpas. Both of them are defunct, of course. So the house is like for vacations and stuff. And they managed to break a bed and not pay a single fucking penny of that. So yeah, that got me very angry. And well, I'll just let it slide, but I was already very angry. And when the time for my birthday came, every one of that group just forgot. They didn't remember it. And that just, oh, well, at the time it made me cry, but right now I say, well, fuck those people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that turn of events actually is something of the happiest decisions I've made in my life because that actually ended up in me getting into a relationship, and we are already 6 months into it, and everything's working fine.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, so you see the character progression, the character arc, if you want to call it that way.
Yeah. Bro, this is like an anime.
Yeah, exactly. You have an insult that has the happy ending, or at least until now. I hope it's forever after. Like,
Yeah, and you know what? I can tell just from the way you talk about this that even if the person you're with now, even if everything went wrong there, you know what right looks like now. You know what it means to have that confidence and to not feel hatred from your own pain. I don't think you could ever fall back into that.
yeah, and well, if I fall back into that, well, I can always count on the people I love.
That's so important.
So yeah, it was quite a character progression into a relationship, a very healthy one. Like we talk everything, every conversation that we must have, even if we don't want to, we have them because it's necessary. Every uncomfortable conversation. But in the end, that's the thing, and well, that just proves like anyone is deserving of happiness, and everyone deserves love. You don't deserve a woman or a man. I don't know if there are incels that are gay. There may be. Well, there are a lot of homosexuality repressed into the group also, but that may be a topic for another day. I don't know, taking a drink or
Mm-hmm.
something. Like more funny anecdotes.
Yeah, like closeting and homophobia in the incel community is just so apparent. It's so
Yes,
obvious. Even I can see it.
exactly. So yeah, in the end, you don't deserve a man or a woman. You don't deserve a person slave to you. You deserve love, no matter where it comes from. And that's the thing that one learns in the end. And by the end, too, you also deserve to be happy and a happy forever after. Being alone or being with a companion or being, I don't know, if you are open to open relationships, that's your thing. And ending in that note, I think it's important.
Absolutely.
Tell me a story, I wanna hear it. You might think it's boring, but I'm interested. Tell me a story, I wanna hear it. You might think it's boring, but I'm interested.